So you guys want to see something cool? In my basement, this is my little man cave. We got surrounded by all kinds of little things here. Pictures from the military, the door from Stripper Glitter, time as a combat instructor, all my race car stuff, deer head, whatever. But my most prized possession is that right there. That hanging above the mantel, that sword. That sword was recovered from the Battle of Okinawa by my grandfather, who served in the Pacific Theater pretty much the entire duration, even after sustaining a nasty gunshot wound down the side of his head. And he carried that scar with him his entire life. That sword up there pretty much represents the whole reason why I had joined the Marine Corps to begin with. Because he would tell me the craziest stories from the Battle of Okinawa, not just the hand-to-hand combat and like the gory stuff, like, oh, that's cool stuff. But a lot of people don't know is that the Okinawans were actually enslaved by the Japanese during that time. The Imperial Army came to the island of Okinawa, took it over, martial law, enslaved the people, made them dig trenches and all kinds of stuff. And they would just, pillage these people, took their wealth, would take over their businesses, stole their money, stole all their goods. And so when the Americans had finally arrived, not only was it an extremely intense, bloody battle, because it was like the Pacific's equivalent to Normandy, but it was also, there's this liberation factor was going on where the Okinawans are being freed from the control of the Japanese. So he'd tell me these stories, and that was the biggest driving factor as to why I had joined. Well, fast forward, he passed away he has a stroke, and ultimately it takes him a few years later, and he passes away, and I'm in my late teens. He passes, and then all of his stuff that he had brought back from Japan and Okinawa disappears. All of his war trophies, the sword, he had pearl-handled revolvers, he had ammo cans full of the coolest trinkets and stuff, these war trophies he had brought back, and everything had a story with it. It all just disappeared. Why? Because I have shitty family members that just like to take stuff and pawn it for its cash value, and I figured the sword was one of those things that just had magically disappeared, because I'd inquired about it numerous times. And I kind of sort of felt entitled to it only because I was the only person from my generation of my family that had actually served in the military. Not only just served in the military, but also went to combat both Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, not sitting behind a desk, actually doing stuff. So which had orders to go from one base to another. We're going from Hawaii to North Carolina, and I stopped to visit my cousins in 2012, and during that visit they had surprised me with this, and I was just beside myself. That is a Kaiyu Guntu, I believe is how you say it. It's a Japanese officer sword, and it's one of the ones, I believe it's rare because these were not handmade, but there was some that were done from the factory in chrome plating, like this one. So it has a chrome plated handle with a laminated wooden bottom, chrome guard, chrome sheath. It is numbered, everything stamped on the other side, and he brought this home with him from Okinawa back in the 40s. And then when I went in 2005 for the first time, I got to participate in the world's largest tug-of-war in the city of Naha, which is down south, the southern portion of Okinawa. And so even though my grandfather was there for combat or for conflict reasons, I was there for cultural reasons and also learning a lot of stuff. So I got to get that little piece of that rope there from the city of Naha after participating within the world's largest tug-of-war, which was a 40-ton rope. And so it's kind of cool. Life comes full circle. I'm there, 60 plus years later, having fun, having a good old time. And when my grandfather was there, it was a totally different story. So fireplace or a mantle, and then below it is some stuff that I got to bring back from my exploits. This helmet came from the Battle of Ramadi in 2004, so that was a good time. This was from outside of Marja, 2010, and then roughly the winter in Afghanistan. These came from I believe it was the city or little village called Chapawali. We had done a bunch of stuff to rid this village of the Taliban influence, and well, we all see where that went. But anyhow, neat that that I have this. And all the cool shit that I have, that is probably by far the coolest. Yeah, don't mind that right there. Hey, as a, when you're leading Marines, you got to do what you got to do, and hey, got to break the soul without breaking the SOP. Some of y'all understand that. Have a good one.